Okay, well, I'm sure these gentlemen don't need much introduction from me. I think you all know who they are. So, excellent. First of all, thank you very much, gents, for all of you for giving up your time this evening. It's good to see you all. Looking very well, I must say. Looking very well, so that's good to see. I might start with you, Greg, if I'm not. I appreciate that things are in motion or in flux at the moment, but are you able to give us any kind of update on the club's situation, where it sits with the ownership side of things, or is that still very much a work in progress?
It's a good answer.
Yeah, look, it's a work in progress. I think it's no secret. I've been up front with committee from my first day here that 15 years Mike's been involved with the club as an owner and a chairman. He's the longest serving person in the A-League, and he's continually looked for investment for all kinds in the club, and continues to do so today and as we sit here. So that's for multiple reasons from Mike, but number one is to make sure that we've got club sustainability and what it looks like in the future. You would know there's some, as you mentioned, challenges within the league. The challenge is probably more around the funding than the dropping in the funding. But I feel like the group that are leading that at the moment have got things steering in the right direction. We'll just keep supporting them and make sure that we get back to a reasonable level pretty soon, because it's pretty important.
Yeah, I know for a conversation that we had recently that there are moves afoot to look at the broadcasting deal for next year. I believe that there's opportunities maybe to improve that situation. So, whilst we're locked in, I believe, for this year, there's a possibility that could change for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the word on the street, right? So we've got to make sure that the A-Leagues and the APL know that the funding level is not adequate at the moment. It's not just for Central Coast Mariners, it's across the league. It does make it difficult in certain situations, but it's not in our control, to be honest. So we just deal with what we can control and make sure that we've put the right things in place internally, and we've got good people around, and it makes it easy on a day-to-day basis. But the clubs are all working together. I feel, I think in my first week here, I thought that there was differences between the clubs within the A-Leagues, but it's not really. Some probably got more money than others, us included, but the clubs arguably had more success than others as well. So I've got people like Mark, Matty, and the boys around. That makes it, as I said, good on a day-to-day basis. It's always a challenging environment. I feel like we're all the kind of people that, without speaking for the guys, we do our best and get on with it, right?
Well, you've got to tune the background noise out to a degree. You can only control what you can control, so it makes no sense to waste energy on things that feel during personal control. Given that we're, obviously the A-League is a vital part of the Australian football eco-structure, and a healthy A-League means healthy football in general. I would argue, and certainly in terms of into the national space, etc. Has the FA engaged much with the league, to your knowledge, in terms of trying to find solutions to the challenges?
It's a cracking question. You're stepping down as chairman. I think you should keep it on. Maybe in the media.
I've got a face for radio.
Yeah,
great.
An old boy next Monday night, not that he really knows about it yet.
Oh, right, okay.
Good. Great. It's not for me to talk on behalf of the FA or the APL. I know that they work hand in hand for the best outcomes of football. That's what everyone wants. How that operates, I'm not privy to on a day-to-day basis, obviously, but I think it's the number one participation sport, right? So there's a lot going for football when it gets to the professional level, as we know. The AFL is pretty handy in that arena, and the NRL. But if you listen to a lot of commentary, the football, it's a question for Mark, but from my perspective and the commentary, the football's been outstanding over the last couple of years, and then men's and women's games. So there's a lot to look forward to. My understanding, the FA is on track, obviously, to make sure football is successful, and they're putting things in place to make sure it's the number one sport in the nation. It's a big task. Cricket thrown in there as well. Yeah, I think they're trying their best to work together, whatever that looks like. Got people involved. Right?
So how have you found Stephen Conroy's tenureship as the chairman now at the
Yeah, people have said I came into the hot seat. I think Stephen's seat was a whole lot hotter. But he's done this is only my opinion. He's done a fantastic job to, bring, I won't say sinking ship, but it wasn't floating very well, back in order, and to get some sustainability around it. Former politician, so speaks very well. Yeah, he acts on behalf of the clubs. I feel he's, I feel he's an honest guy. I did say he was a politician, but he's pretty upfront in the meetings, and I've had a fair few with him as a group of CEOs, and then also a couple personally with Stephen, and he's supportive of the club and he's supportive of the A-League, and that's all we can ask for as a club moving forward. Make sure that we get not only his but all the board members' support.
I mean, the irony of the situation, touched upon it, to say the standard of football has been arguably as good as it's ever been. In terms of the competitive nature of the league and how each team is able to take another team down, nothing's certain in the league anymore. There's none of the, big 2 or 3 clubs and everyone else following along on their coattails. So it's been, it's a shame that the financial situation for the league has been so difficult for whatever reasons. And I think we've all got our views on that, but it is a shame that the football seems to be on the up, and yet the fortunes of the game in a financial sense have been on the wane. So I guess it's always a challenge. Sometimes one prevails over the other, but as you say, hopefully the teams and the leagues can ride this trough out of it and then come out to a better place at the end of it. As we said earlier, in my speech, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I know that the club's always been resilient financially. It's always said to manage its means very tightly, and so that's, I guess, that challenge is nothing new for the club, although it's probably a few different dynamics that haven't been there before. So we appreciate that everyone's doing what they can do. Understands, Greg, and that hopefully the right outcomes will prevail, and hopefully the football gods won't desert us any further than they did this last season. Does anyone on the floor have any questions for Greg? We've only got him for a limited time. Mark,
just what are the implications for the draw, for the TV deal, for the player availability, for everything?
Yeah, it's obviously big news. Yeah, can't speak too much to it for obvious reasons, but West United are appealing. You would have read that in the press. They've got 7 days to appeal, which I think is this Friday. You take the team out of the draw, there's a couple less games, right? So that obviously has some implications. I think the fortunate side, we're only in the secondary period of the draft draw as it stands, so might be opportunistic, but yeah, it's not too much commentary around that, to be honest. I think next week a bit more.
Yeah, that's a big piece of news, really, wasn't it? So, I'm not sure if it was surprising as such, given there's been a lot of noise around that discussion for some time now, but you always think there's some half truths and what have you been told, but it seems like it's, for the CFA that's taking action, I believe, under their first principles committee, first.
It's an independent board, effectively.
Yeah, so it's, it must concern them to the degree that they've taken the action they have. But interesting times, I guess. Anybody else have any questions for Greg? Oh, and there must be some. Not a good audience, this one, Greg.
They answered comments before, so.
Yeah, I've got all my answers prior to the meeting.
I might move on to yourself then, Mark, if I may, and Greg, please don't be, if you need to step out of the room, please, do so. Not that we would love you to stay, for as long as you can, but please step out of them if you need to.
Thank you.
Mark, so second season syndrome, got third season syndrome. So, how have you found pre-season so far?
Pre-season has been fine. Probably a relief for me to get back into training, working with the players. It's probably been one of the most frustrating and challenging parts of my career as a head coach and being in football as well. So to actually get on the pitch with these guys and work day to day and have that space to do my job is it's quite a relief, really. So we're in the mix of it now in pre-season. Numbers are not big within the group, but I've got to say these guys stepping up, and ever since I walked back into the building, they've been on point with where we want them to be. And it's just managing the off the field stuff now, which is a real challenge. But my time on the pitch, when I get to go on, he said he don't see me smiling that often. I smile when I'm on the pitch. And it's about dealing with the stuff off the pitches as best as we can. You know, ensuring that the club can move forward at the right times. And you know, Greg said it there before. The good people at the club. There's lots and lots of good people, and you know, when the club does move forward, it's imperative that those good people remain, because that's what will make the Marins. You know, in my short time here, we have confessed to be here a long time, but you know, it feels like many more years than it is, because of the achievements we've had, the challenges we've had. It's not all smooth sailing in football. That's certainly not the case. But we meet those challenges head on all the time, and without good people, you probably fight a losing battle. So you know, when the club does move forward, and I'm sure it will, and some good positive signs coming, I'm sure, then those good people will remain and move the club forward.
So I felt, I spoke to you at Women's Grand Final, you might recall, or just before the Women's Grand Final, and I so kind of impressed with how you spoke to me about the coming season, about, like, you know, you've done your debriefs, you've identified your targets, etc., etc. All very, very professionally done. And I was thinking, great, this is going to set us up for real success now. It's been a difficult season, but you know, we'll get over that, we'll adjust. And then, of course, the ownership around the club situation has changed, so that must have been incredibly frustrating for you. And you know, I guess it's kind of, you know, you've got to reinvent the whole plan again and all that kind of thing. But you know, things happen for a reason, I guess, at the end of the day, and you've got to be as philosophical about that as you can be, because otherwise you drive yourself to insanity, I'm sure. Are you able to speak to us about, I mean, I understand Danny Schofield's unfortunately got back to the UK for personal reasons, and that's a sad loss, because I know how much you value Danny's counsel. But I do also, I believe that Josh Rose is now part of this, is that, you know, more stepped up more in an assistant coaching role. So I'm sure that, you know, you're finding enjoyable working with Josh as you did last season.
Yeah, 100%. It's always when you know, me and Danny went through a lot together, and we obviously had a relationship before we came over here as well. We worked at the same club at Leeds United, so we knew each other, and yeah, we lived one hell of a journey in our time together. It's the right time for him to go back. Yeah, he said to me, he said one quote, he said, if you were in my shoes, you'd be doing what I'm doing, and if I were in your shoes, I'd be doing what you're doing. So I thought that was hit the nail straight on the head with that, really. You know, Danny's got a son who's at Huddersfield Town back over in England. He's got a son who's going, you know, should be going through his last years at school, and it's very, very important that, you know, his family looks after. So we still probably speak, you know, once every 10 days on a Zoom call, so we're always in touch. But listen, there'll be a big loss. But like I said there, you mentioned Josh Rose, who was on the staff last year as well. Again, someone who knows the club a lot, knows the community, knows what it's about. Like I said, it's those people what make the Central Coast Mariners so unique. In my opinion, I've been around a lot of football clubs in my time. I've seen a lot of clubs work. And this club is really unique because it's got people embedded into the club, you know, like Josh Rose, like Matt Simon, who know what it's about, not only the club, but the community as well. It's really, really unique. So he's going to take more responsibility this season, and he's shown in a short space of time, not only the time we've been back in training, but yeah, I am quite a hard taskmaster where, you know, I have the staff working in the off season on certain projects. We analyse the top teams around the world. We analyse how we want our players to play and how we develop. And, you know, I set them certain tasks. Him, Danny Vukovic, Marpu and Liam Chauncey, the analyst, our analyst, certain tasks to do over the off season, and yeah, they've worked extremely hard, and you know, I think he's going to rise to that challenge now to become my right hand man, because there's a lot of responsibility on that. It's really, really important that you have someone you trust alongside you, and as well a group of staff who you fully trust and who are fully all in with the project we want to do. So, you know, I'm very blessed that even though I've lost someone like Danny, you know, and we're effectively a member of staff down, and it's very hard. But you know, having someone like Josh stepping up and, like I said, knows the club in and out, it's good for me.
Yeah, and I think you're right. The club, the fact that the club has been able to retain people like Josh and Matt, you know, it's very, very important to our DNA and trying to achieve here as a club. And you know, it's very meaningful to each of those people. And I think, you know, that for every fan out there, it's a very personal journey. Obviously, the fans are, I think it's well, how they say, but you know, but to have that DNA sort of woven throughout the coaching staff, and to a degree, some of the players have been there a number of years now as well, and some of those are coach leads, etc. I think it's something that certainly, as me as a fan, I'm very proud of that fact, and you know, I'll take the underdog status every single year, and you know, and bat it out and see where we go. But you know, I think it's the identity of the club can't change too much from that, because it's such a fundamental part of who we are and what we want to be. Are you able to talk? I mean, without, you know, obviously there are things you can and can't speak to in this space. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Let's go on
He stretched off still, or what is coming on the basket?
Have you warmed up? Have you warmed up for it?
You poor old fella.
Can't come on the pitch and not walk this guy.
sideways. This is what you've got to look forward to. So I know there's things that can't speak to, Mark, but are you able to talk to the squad at the moment? I think you mentioned numbers were smaller than obviously ideal, but you know, are you able to look at any kind of recruitment, or is it at the moment, is everything in a holding pattern until things resolve?
It's been in the holding pattern for a long time. Probably starting to see signs only in the last probably week or so where we can start to maybe bring those players we've identified to life a little bit. When I say that, it's we have a real strict process of how we look at players. These boys are probably getting a bit of an insight now into what we do off the pitch, because I think we just sit in the office and having cups of coffee all day. But we have a real in-depth process of what we do when looking at players, and that involves a lot of stats, that involves a lot of video, and a lot of analysis from each individual member of staff. You know, Matt, myself, Liam, look into a player's physical background as well. That's not always easy when they're not from this country, for instance. So you've got to do the due diligence on players. So that takes a lot of time. So I'd say probably in the last 5-6 days, we'd probably be able to go to another level from where we've been at now as regards to really bringing that to life a little bit. And, you know, I can't really say that we're making any progress, that we're going to announce a new signing immediately, but, you know, things are moving forward. And for me, that's really, really important. Part of the frustration sometimes is, no matter where you are on a journey, for me, as long as you know where you're going, and that there's a vision to go and achieve something, you don't mind where that journey is. You know, you can start way back, but having that vision is really, really important for me as a person, but as a head coach as well. And part of that journey is obviously the recruitment, like you said, and you know, the fans will be crying out for it. And you know, I'll probably answer a question here is probably why have you not heard me on media or anything? And you know, I've kind of stepped back a little bit, because until I've got anything concrete to tell people, there's no point me just waffling on, because you'll probably come off and go, well, you've not said no. You spoke for 5 minutes and not really said anything in there. So I'd rather it be meaningful and purposeful. But we have made another step forward now as regards to taking our observations on players a little bit further forward. I have to say that what we have in the group, I'll just reiterate what I said before, that you know, these young boys, and you've got 2 of them sat here tonight, and these young boys will have a real opportunity and have shown a real hunger to grasp that opportunity already. Pre-season's been tough and it's going to only get tougher.
It's just hard. I imagine it's hard to coach hunger, isn't it? Do you feel, or is that too simplistic?
I've always felt we had that here. I always felt we had that, and you tend to find that in Australia since I've been here, because I'm sure these two guys want to, with all due respect to the Mariners and where we are, they don't want to spend the rest of their careers at the Mariners. I think it's fair to say, and that's not being disrespectful to the club, but these have got aspirations to play in the top leagues in Europe. Correct me if I'm wrong, folks.
I'd like to be fair to Miguel. I believe he didn't pass up an opportunity to stay with the club, and so huge, character to do that. So that's the most kids, not just kids. That's a terrible term. Most young men, young players, whether they're male or female, but when an agent or a club starts to, tell you the best things since sliced bread, it's hard to say, is that still the right move for me? It might sound very, exciting, that enticing prospect, but is it the best thing for me in my development as a player? And that must, I'm sure those are conversations that you do have.
Of course, yeah, and he's, that trust in us that as a club that we can foster his development is shows that he's thinking the right way. I always say when players move over to Europe or go on to bigger leagues, that we want them to not just go and survive, but to go and strive in them leagues. So giving them the tools, and that's why we play the way we play. It's trying to develop a winning mentality, but not a win at all cost mentality. I've had people say to me before, but why do you play out from the back? Why do you not start out? We're developing players to play at the highest level, and for us to give opportunities to these players, they have to learn how to play different ways.
If you're not challenging, then they're not learning.
Exactly, and it doesn't always work. It's challenging to everybody just to squeeze up to the halfway line and go kick that ball on, and that's an easy thing to do. It's an easy thing to do. But to give them the courage and the confidence to be able to go out there and play and actually, embrace making mistakes. We don't want too many of them. We want to become more consistent, but that's the only way these boys will learn, is by actually being out there and doing it. And they'll have a fantastic opportunity next year, because we are going to be young. We're going to be very young, but that's not a bad thing. I think that's a trend what's happening throughout the league now as well. Yeah, you see a lot more young players. So it'll be a trend, but we'll be probably the youngest, I would say. But
that's some of the league has kind of embraced that, though, to a degree. I feel like, it wasn't just us, but there were other clubs that kind of set the blueprint in motion, really, with bringing their youth back, backing their academy players into the first teams and what have you. And I think that's been part, we spoke earlier with Greg about the way that the football in the league has, I've become more of an enjoyable watch, just, maybe the neutral, if you want to call it that, rather than the diehards. And I think the introduction of the youth, which has no fear and is prepared to try the audacious or, to work their socks off to succeed. I think that's part of the attraction of the league. In fact, I think you should embrace it fully. I mean, that said, as you spoke to me in the past, it's about having a balance. You can't just throw 11 kids out there and expect them to, necessarily beat, a very well-started football team. But I think there was a quote attributed to Matt Simon, to Nick Montgomery, sorry, where he said hard work beats talent, and talent doesn't work hard, So I think that was a very true thing, if you can understand.
you're taking that. I've been out for years.
Did you give it that one?
I've been out for years.
Well, I know he put it on the back of the shirt one year, and I thought it was a really apt saying, because, good players sometimes can be lazy because they know they're good, but
I think we're good with, like you said there, with the blend of the squad. For me, it's really important that you get the right blend within a squad, because young players, it's all about blood in young players. And like I said, I've got two in front of me, but they'll have a period of time where they will suffer. This is it. We all have to suffer in life. We all suffer in whatever walk of life we're in, work, home life, stuff like that, and we'll suffer on the pitch at times. And I think having that blend and experience around them can help them on the pitch, can help them in the dressing room. But having that kind of depth within the squad as well enables me to go, right, okay, let me just take you out the firing line for a little bit. You might need to come out. A perfect example was last year here in Eames. He burst onto the scene, and we played Auckland at home when we started, and it was just too physical for him. They were too physical for him. It was clear, it was apparent. So, you know, come out of the team for a little bit, and then when he went back in, he started to flourish a little bit. But having the squad and the capabilities to do that at the right time is that's my job, and that's my job to see that, you know, recognise that. Sometimes it is, you have to stay in. That's the right thing to do. It also there's another thing to do where you can take the heat off them a little bit.
But you don't want to undermine, you don't want the young player feeling that they've made one mistake and it's cost them their spot in the team. But equally, you can't continue to flog that poor young player if they're struggling. You know, you've got to get the balance right. Haven't you?
That's what it is, and that's got to have a place to do that, and having the right experienced players around these young boys as well is, I always say it's on the pitch as well, and we can drive, you know, that gives a lot of experience to the boys as well. Myself, my experiences, Josh Rose and Booker can give that. But I always say that, you know, when the boys go into their dressing room and, you know, the door's shut sometimes, and I always look, as I look at my office and the door shut, what's going on in there, and, you know, for them to be able to look across the dressing room and see, you know, experienced players who've done it all, really tap into their mindset is been very helpful. So, you know, that's what I look for in my squad. And I look working with young players. That's what I've done throughout my career as a coach, and I'll continue to do that. But creating that blend and that opportunity to help them, put players alongside them, and can teach them as well, as long as coaches is vital.
So, might turn to you, Matt. Now I'll come to you guys. I do apologise for keeping you waiting, but it kind of goes in a bit of a natural flow of this, and we'll get around to you in a moment. So apart from waiting for the Western United fire sale, Matt, how challenging has your role been this year as technical director? You know, I think going out there and finding talent and trying to recruit it, etc.
Yeah, look, I think, as Mark said, and, you know, I think this has probably been one of the hardest times in the history of the club, to be honest, since I've been involved. You know, there's no secret that Mike at the Metal Night said that, you know, he needs investment. You know, he's been involved for 15 years now. He's put his own money in, which you need to respect him for that. And it's come to a point now with the distribution across the league that, you know, he can't continue to do it long term. So, you know, there was a period there for the last 3 months where a group was looking at the club, and while they did their due diligence, we were put on hold. Weren't allowed to make any decisions. Weren't allowed to sign players.
Do you feel that was a bit short-sighted? Now, I mean, as a fan, my view is that the club is an investment, and if you're going to not activate the plans that Mark has put in place, you know, very diligently at the end of last season, you devalue that potentially value the club and the team. Is there some sense around that, or is that a bit of a
Yeah, of course you can say your opinion, and you feel it's because you've been around the club for so long, and you're from the area, and you know the fans, and you know how the club works in and out, and you know what's best for it. But at the end of the day, when someone wants to do their due diligence and sort of has the right to say, you know, you can't do anything while we're doing it, then there's not much we can do about it, you know. So it has been a frustrating time. The biggest risk of the whole thing was that those people didn't come on board after us waiting for 3 months, and that's exactly what happened. So, you know, they're not involved at the moment, for different reasons. There's new people looking at it at the moment, which has been quite positive, which we're hopeful for. But yeah, it has been a difficult time. We're 2 months into the contract cycle already. So, you know, what's left of the Australian players is minimal. Most of the, you know, real top players that were off contract that we had targets have been snapped up. So, you know, as Mark said, we have belief in the team that we have. It's a small group at the moment, but we actually do need some more players to fill the quota. We have to have minimum 18 signed A-League players before the 15th of September. We currently have 16, so we have to make 2 signings. We have 6 scholarship players as well. So yeah, we're as Mark said, though, it's backs against the wall. We always, you know, we always thrive like that. But yeah, it's going to be, you know, we need to get moving and make some signings. And we're doing everything in our power to make that happen.
I know it would be absolutely. I think, and we all hope that things move in that positive manner. I might turn to you now, Nick, if I may. So I spoke to you briefly when we first came in, but I don't know how many of you are aware, but Paul Miguel had quite an injury. He came back from national team duty with last season, and that really hampered you. So would you perhaps talk to us about what the injury was and how difficult it was to get through last season for you in terms of the physical side of things?
Yeah, so I tore my meniscus in my right knee.
Oh, shit.
I did that
God.
So we can bleep that out.
around
Oh.
around a year ago now. It was a difficult season for me. Obviously, coming off the treble winning season, I had big plans for myself to join that starting lineup and be a starter in the squad. And I copped a bit of a setback, which happens in football, and I worked really hard to get myself back into the team and things like that. So now I'm fully fit and enjoying pre-season, the hard part of it at the moment. So my body's responding well, and I'm ready for the season, which is good.
Right. Where do you see yourself as in your opinion, where's your best position in the team?
Number 10.
Yeah.
I feel like I can have a lot to give to the team in assisting and scoring goals. So hopefully I can do that this season. You guys.
I think the great pity of your injury when your injury came is we were really only beginning to see the best of you towards the back end of the treble winning season. You were really starting to make an impact when you came into games or when you started games. And then of course, that's the lot of a footballer, isn't it? Just when you think that, the path is set and you're on your way, then injuries become, I would call that quite regularly for some players. I mean, look at someone like Paul Brad Tatley to do 2 ACLs in 3 or 4 years, it's particularly cruel for him to accept. But as we keep, this seems to be the theme of the night. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And you're saying you're feeling good in your own body and mindset. So we're hoping you can deliver on that for everybody's sake this season. We look forward to seeing.
Thank you.
And as I mentioned earlier, some people may or may not know, but Miguel was offered an opportunity to go overseas at the end of the first grand final season, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he very wisely, I think, very maturely elected to stay at the club because he felt that he would develop more quickly or more in a better way than perhaps going into one of the big European systems and basically being chewed up by the sausage factory. I mean, I'm glad to say that most of our players that have moved on, when they've moved on, have gone on to be successful at whatever level that may be. And we're seeing that the likes of Maxi and Ballard are doing really well in Holland, and now I think that Josh Nisbet will flourish better. Now he's in the Dutch league, albeit the second tier, but in the Dutch league is a much better league, much more suited to his technical style and his abilities. And then I read this week that Lewis Miller's been taken by Blackburn. So all those players next to Trent, all those guys that have gone before you, they've gone at the right time. I mean, some of them have gone earlier than others, but it's about, I think, giving time. It sounds very obvious, but going when you go and you can make it stick. That's the whole objective for all of you young players. It's got to be to go and make it stick, not go just be used by a club and then basically cast aside. And even someone like Graham McCall is clearly a talent that's struggled for 2 years really in the wilderness, doesn't he? I think he's now finally finding some traction because he's got the right environment, the right spot. But football's a sausage factory. It's a really tough business, as everyone, you would know more than anyone else. But I mean, even in your short journey, Abdul, you've been bouncing around the A-League a little bit, haven't you? And so hopefully you found somewhere that feels a good fit for you and that you can learn to develop and improve and come on in leaps and bounds for us. Again, what made you able to speak to why the Mariners project appealed to you particularly? Because obviously you were signed by Perth initially. And we sort of lit the league up a little bit to start with, and then kind of disappeared a little bit off the radar. But was it the Mariners' reputation of developing young players, and you felt that was the place you wanted to be?
Yeah. So when I first started at Perth, I started off really well, and then as the gaffer said, like young players go up and down. So I had a bit of a phase where I disappeared a bit, wasn't playing too much. So I was looking around, seeing where I can play and where I'll be useful, and sat down with my agent, had a few clubs, but like when he said the Mariners were interested, I was like interested straight away. I knew what they do like with young players in the past, so yeah, I came in mid-season last year, and January. Did well when I came in, so but got my feet into the door, so hopefully looking for a big season this year. And yeah,
I think, people don't necessarily realise, we all expect you to be superstars, everyone, that's what every fan hopes for, anyway. But when you come to a new team, the coach might coach in a different way, might use players in a different way, and everybody's got to adapt to that, and it can take a lot longer than people realise. You of all people know that it's a jigsaw puzzle, right? You've got to try and, you may have I know from a coaching at an amateur level, you have to look at what's in the stable and you have to say, okay, how can we maximise the output from that group of players? What are we going to, how are we going to, where's our strengths, where's our weaknesses, how can we manage the weaknesses but maximise the strengths? So, for players like yourself, you've got to be adaptable. It's the reality of it. So we see you as a winger potentially. But Mark may have different ideas. I think somebody attributed a quote to you about you don't play with a certain type of player, and of course, if you're that certain type of player, you must be crestfallen. But you either adapt or you don't you? It's as simple as that.
I think for me, that's a perfect thing, unless you're one of the top teams in Europe where you can go, I play this way, so I want to recruit players for this way. We had a real unique way of playing when we won the treble. 4-4-2, Jacob Fowler coming round, swinging round, and Angel Torres going to wing back, Docker going up there, Nisbet going in that 10, really unique. Sorry. If you're one of the top teams in Europe, you probably say, okay, we lost how many players out of that team? Well, I'm going to pay the money to replace them exactly at once. So, and we didn't have that going into last year. I'm going to put the boys on the spot here a little bit now, so I'm going to test them a little bit. So, we've really looked at what these boys are position wise, what they can offer, and I'm not. My ego's not that big to say that this is my way, I'm not changing it or anything like that. So I'm looking at what we have, what's the attributes of these players and the other young players in the squad, and I'll mould our way of playing to that. And that's why we spent a lot of time in the off season with the staff. We sat down, did a full review. We actually sat in the office with the whiteboard on there, and it was falling up to a mess, but we could make sense of it. And then we went away and started to look at the top teams. How did they press? How did they do that? How did they work in certain systems? And then ultimately it did come back a little bit to my belief as well, being kind of the way I played as a player, the way I came through probably the club I spent most time at, Leeds United. It's kind of that more aggressive kind of way. We had a lot of time last year where we said we can't go up against teams because the boys won't mind me saying this, I'm sure, that we can't win enough duels. We can't win the duels against it, but we can't go in and take the ball off more physical players because we can't do it. So we had to play in a more pragmatic way. But we kind of torn that up and said, no, I'm not having that. We're going to teach these boys how to go up against teams and go out and take the ball off on people. We won't always get it right, but we're going to have that mindset, and we're going to develop a physicality, and we're going to develop a culture to fit around our tactics where we're going to go after it a little bit more. So, you boys will probably say some of the key words we've been speaking about, or anything what springs to mind. I'm really testing them now. So even with developing our language of how we speak, and what the terminology is and things like that. So. Swarming, yeah. Swarming, so it's a terminology we use about how we get around the bodies around the ball to win the ball back.
being ruthless.
Ruthless, yeah. Okay.
So joining in as well.
Joining in, not just one player going to press, other players going to press and join in. So we're starting to introduce all these behaviours, and there's been a real strategy behind how I'm trying to do that with the staff, not just me, with the staff. How we're trying to do that, and it's not going in and say, right, we're doing this now, give everything to the players with kind of drip feeding it in, because we have that luxury.
It's a
we have a
process.
3.5 month pre-season, so we have that luxury to be able to
We have to build the foundations.
Scaffold.
To build the lads.
sorry, in learning terms, you scaffold that learning for the players. So that's what we're trying to do. Will we get it right all the time? No, but we're trying to bring a different identity to the team to obviously, put these players in positions in the shop window where they can really flourish rather than saying they have to adapt to what we did in that treble winning season, because we had the players to do that then. Fit in that certain way, so we're gonna evolve.
So returning to the point you made earlier about having to take names out of the firing line, but did you feel as a coach that in your short time in the A, but did you feel that last season was a more physical season? I mean, I know the referees were told to let more things go, which obviously meant that players took full advantage of that. But a team like Auckland, from a spectator's point of view, I saw the team as like, I actually called Auckland Bullets. That's basically how they play. They got it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They didn't do it away from home, we matched them there.
Yeah.
We, you
Yeah.
know, we matched them, we deserve that point.
Yeah.
It didn't matter, at our place they did, we did. But then you look at the team we had, and I go back to those who were at the awards night, that young players in our team didn't just appear on the scene, and it's kind of so many appearances, and you're building on them all the time. So the experiences these guys have had over the last 2 seasons, you know, we're hoping they can grow on that next season, and with that comes a physicality as well. So developing your body in a physical point of view. We're not creating bodybuilders, we're not creating big players who can't run. We have to be able to run. So we have to out sprint, outrun, and out muscle our opponents. But to do that, you know, you can't be big bodybuilders, you have to be athletic, and that's modern day footballer now. Jacob Fowler come back and trained in the off season, and you can see the physical shift in his body. So the physical shift now is challenging to play in the championship. So that's what we have to do with these players, athletic players. So we said our point of difference, and it's a terminology we use all the time. What's going to be our point of difference this year? We're going to have an idea of our tactics and our behaviours on the pitch, but our culture and our physicality, we're really striving for those to be our point of difference within the season. So that takes time, doesn't happen overnight. We're having to do it in, like I said, in that scaffolding kind of effect to make sure we do it safely, because we can't just say we're going to run. We have to build them up slowly, these boys, because you know we want them on the pitch and we need them on the pitch.
Yeah, well, not only are they learning the tactical side of the game, they're still growing into the bodies a lot. So you know you can't push those guys too hard, and you know consistency with young players is one of the hardest things to achieve. The ones that do it early, obviously, you know, have that little bit extra about them maybe, but that's not to say others can't get there if they're given the right environment to grow in that space.
That's what we're trying to do. Create our environment where these lads can grow together, grow in as individuals, but grow as a team, because that's what we are. We're a team here. And with that, have some success as well. Like I said, we're not going to get it right. It can be, you know, there'll be certain elements where we have to go from a control point of view. Because when you press, you have to go from a control point of view, but developing their understanding that, you know, when we go, we go. We're not even walk 1s and 2s, we go 3s, 4s, 5s as a team. And, you know, then terminology, 100 to 70. Well, describe that. What does that mean to the members here?
You say you're pressing at 100%, and then to have that composure to come back down to 70%, make the right pass, make the right decision.
I say like miles an hour, really. So 100 to, he said 100 mile an hour. When we're pressing, we're going to be 100 mile an hour. So I thought last season we would tend to win the ball in good times like that, and then go back down to about 40, 30 miles an hour, and build too much. And we just didn't have that understanding and know how to break teams down. So the terminology of 100 to 70 is, yeah, we're going 100% to win the ball, but then we're going to show composure to come down a little bit, but we're still going quick on our transition. So it's a terminology, and there was a great example today in training. Really to Nicole, was it? Yeah, great example in training of that terminology. So again, we try and progress that all the time, these behaviours and how we play. Well, it's going to take time, and it's not going to just take pre-season. Might take another season.
I remember the first time the club won the grand final. I remember Graham Arnold, the then coach, saying it took 3 years to get to this point. It took 3 years to build
exactly.
It will take time.
Yeah.
It will take time. And what we have to do is create an environment around these young players where it's a safe environment, it's a challenging environment, but it's a safe environment where they can grow. And you know, it's my job to protect them, to challenge them and push them, but to protect them as well, to protect the heat off them.
I suppose the flip side of what you've just spoken to there, Mark, is that you've also got to deal with the opposition having the same mindset in terms of pressing you 100%, 100 miles an hour, then switching to
So
70.
myself are better than your position.
Yeah, that's one thing I took away as watching all the games last year.
Sydney, for instance, Sydney mindsets low press. My opinion, I don't think will be more controlled and calculated. So they've got a bit of thought behind it. But again, they have fantastic players, but we're developing fantastic players here. So yeah, it's my probably overwhelming message is we are evolving. We know that we have to evolve every season, but be patient. That's kind of my message. Be
I'm
patient.
excited to see it. I think that's really encouraging. I'm always very, I've talked to you many times about coaching side of things. I'm always intrigued by coaches' philosophies and how the game changes and evolves. One question, I'll ask one more question and I'll throw it out to the members because we're going to do for a while. One thing that's always passed with me, and I've really, it's a question without notice, I'm always a little bit sceptical, let's just say, as an observer, as to the benefits of swapping left and right footed players over onto the other side of the park. Now, I get the whole cutting in on their stronger foot side of things, but does that not come with the flip side of that approach, that you're now putting the player is less inclined to go around the outside and use their weak foot, or do you challenge the players to still take their opponents on in those positions and try and maybe get the ball in with their weaker foot?
I'll give you my take on it, and these guys might be able to answer it as well. But yeah, I think although you're saying about coming inside, we've got an idea of how we like to control the middle, and then again, it's an evolvement and evolution of our players and who we've got. So if you look at our left back, what does Lucas Moore always like to do? Attack.
Going forward.
Yeah, so yes, we're coming inside, we're going to create chaos there. If they close that off, then we take the option on the outside. If they don't, because they're occupied by the option on the outside, then we go control the middle with more players. So it's about dominating that, trying to dominate space and time, create overloads in certain areas. But certainly, I will deploy wide players in left footers on the left side and the right footers on the right side, and I will switch them over. Well, what we need to develop is players who are adaptable, who can do that. So yes, in the modern game now, I'm talking about players going over to the top leagues. Whereas back in when I used to play, it used to be a 4-4-2 or a certain formation for the game. But now you're seeing that within the game, the team is working in different formations. We did it in the first season because they say, "Oh, you played this." Well, we played 4 formations within that game. But it's more about behaviours. So that's what we're trying to develop. So there's a reason behind doing that. But you've got 2 players here who played in wide positions, and could you maybe give your take on that and why you like playing? Yeah. Apart from dipping inside and looking on the top corner or whatever.
No, there's benefits to both sides. I think if I play, for example, on the left, as you said, like you've got to be good enough to take your opponent on the left or cut inside on the right, just what the game gives you or what your opponent gives you to. I mean, if he's giving you space to cut inside on your right foot and I'm playing on the left, that's an advantage to me. So I cut him with my strong foot and finish. But also playing on the right wing, I feel like it's, for example, if you've got a tall striker or strikers, so you can just go down the line and whipping the ball, that's better than me cutting in on my left foot on the right side. So there's benefits to both sides, I think, but if you want to play at the highest level, you've got to be able to cut in and go outside and use your left foot and your right foot. So yeah,
definitely as a wide player, I think you're 100% right. Because, you see, there were players. Let's take an example. Paul Scholes is probably the example that sticks out in my mind. The bloke's left foot was only any good for getting on the bus, quite frankly. Fantastic player, sublime. I lost count the number of times I saw him do a 360 just to keep the ball on his right foot. And in the modern game, I don't think you can get away with that anymore. You really, Mixer will tell you it's easy to score with right back grand finals.
We've seen you touched on that.
I do.
I think it would be remiss of us not asking you to relive that moment, to kick the, all that go ahead goal.
Yeah, it was incredible feeling. It was even more special to have my whole family there watching. It was really a big moment for me and my family, and it's one that we talk about frequently all the
Love
time.
it.
So it was definitely the best moment in my career so far.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I spoke to you post where in front, it was something to movement you'd actually worked on in training. wasn't it?
Yeah, that's soft 10. We speak about what all the time, types of passes. Straight passes or diagonal passes, speak about diagonal passes. And then even this year, we're talking about attacking that space where I think Ronald put the ball in front. I still think he was missing. But attacking that half space, so that you'll see that a lot this year, hopefully, touch wood, that we're working a lot attacking that half space, but because we believe we've done a lot of studies and looked at a lot of games at key areas where the teams attack now, you know, and we can attack that half lane, and we should be scoring a lot from cutbacks, stand-ups, crosses, and who pays into your kit if you score a tapping at the far stick. Yeah, I need to pay to their kitty a little bit if they score me a tapping at the far stick. So I've committed that myself to it. So I hope this. I think I don't mind paying the money for score.
Oh, there you go, bro.
I always remember a dad in the kids team that I coached where City promised his young lad £5 as it was then for every goal he scored 6.
I haven't committed to the figure yet. That's showing me experience a little bit.
So I'll throw the questions out to the floor. Does anyone else, anyone have anything they'd like to ask the guys? Or got the opportunity?
Yeah, I've got another one. So Mark, for you, you earlier about videos, reviewing videos. So as a fan, we probably picture that maybe differently than it really is. So what is the video that you watch? Is that like match replays of a particular player that you're interested in, or is it more targeted type videos of that player? Or is it a bit of both?
Is that for recruitment or do you
For
mean general?
recruitment.
Because we have
Well, in general too.
Well, in general, it's one tonight I'm watching training back today, every day. So Liam, our analyst, will chop up training, he'll come in, he has the drone, he'll chop up training every drill. So we'll analyse every drill we do, every physical aspect of every drill. And then we'll look at certain elements today. I was probably looking not around tactical behaviours today, not tactical work today, I was looking more about behaviours. So about that 100 to 70, maybe going in, maybe swarming, maybe counter pressing.
Right.
So I looked at that today. So every day we'll review training. If we do 11v11s, you know, that'll be more tactical. So we'll feed back to the players on that on a daily basis. As regards to recruitment of players, Matt gets more than me. I think we are neck and neck. He's probably beating me in the league as regards to how many players we get sent off agents on a daily basis with videos and highlight reels and things like that. But you know, I think if I went and trained myself, I could make a highlight reel where I looked half decent. Anybody can do that. So what we do, I call them compacts. We create compacts of players, gross compacts. So we'll look at players over a certain number of games, and we'll put in there the kind of the good, the bad, the ugly, you know, everything, you know. So, and with that gives us the gross compact gives us an idea of that player. What does he do well? Where could he get better? And every member of staff will watch that, and that's where we'll create kind of that SWOT analysis, you know, strengths, you know, weaknesses, you know, opportunities for this player, you know, and then any potential things. So we do that, and then you know, we do work a lot around stats as well. So I call myself as a manager, I'm not data driven. So data, I won't look at stats, the old Moneyball kind of thing where it doesn't tell you everything in my view. But I'll be data informed. You know, does the data tell me what my eyes telling me as well? We collate the two. So we try and listen. I've worked at Leeds United, I've worked at MK Dons, and my staff there, you know, I had 2 analysts and then I had 2 recruitment analysts as well. I've got 1 analyst here in Liam, who does a fantastic job. And Leeds United were even bigger, you know, there's a whole department for recruitment. You know, the managers went, I want this type of player, and they went and found it and did all the work, but we're not as blessed here, but we try and do it as in depth as we can with the resources we have, because it's important that you do that. So yeah, we use a lot of stats, but we use a lot of time to watch the video as well, but look for all aspects of play. And then probably in these guys' development, what we're trying to foster here, I don't think quite there yet with these, maybe, you know, we want to get into our culture where these guys are bringing their clips to us. They're actually going home on a night and watching training back and going, what about this? Well, I'm not sure about that. We want to create that kind of psychological safety where they're not worried about coming in, knocking on my door and saying, can you have a look at this with me? Because I'm not going to shoot them down. I'm going to help them because I'm develop. We want to foster that learning within them as well.
So without naming names, I think there was one player last year that you mentioned to me would routinely come and ask you for advice on their improving their game. You know, that probably wasn't a nice lad.
Yeah, there was a few. I can, you know, one of the early ones when I first come in was Max Ballard. I can remember having, you know, he was a real confident young man, but had a tactical brain as well. And you know, sitting down with him before we played Perth once, and we're having, you know, and I love players who have an opinion. You know, ultimately they'll come to a point and they'll say, right, okay, but we're doing this. But I'll always welcome that dialogue with players. It's important. It's important for their development because players these days have to be a thinking player and developing all aspects of their understanding.
Well, they should be every bit as engaged in their development as you are.
Yeah.
That
More.
should be a two-way street. Shouldn't it?
More, to be honest with you. But because I don't get in my head all the time, and they're living it there on the pitch, and you come very disjointed when you stop playing. Simo's not stopped playing as long as me, but you have your opinion. It's easy watching the game up there. It's easy watching the game in the stand. It's difficult. So having their insight on that as well can actually, you know, help us tailor things to what they need and what they need for their development as well.
I'd imagine the drone footage is quite helpful because what you see at full ground level is somewhat different to what you see from an aerial perspective.
Yeah, really is. So we try and do that, and yes, would we like more resources? Probably staff to help with that, yes. But we, like I say, we deal with what we have and make the best of it, and we try and be as professional and as in-depth and as detailed as we can, whether that be recruitment or reviewing games or previewing games as well. One thing I didn't mention, and you might be interested to know, that even, you know, so it's a bit of a negative that we've probably had low numbers in pre-season, but what that's brought is that the NPL boys who have come up to train with us, particularly in the 11v11 game that we had, has been really insightful. And it gives them a taste of what it is, because we've got some fantastic, and I was gutted for him yesterday, absolutely gutted. Gutted because they deserve that. They didn't deserve to draw that game. It felt like a loss. They've done fantastically well, and whenever we've needed them on a Wednesday when we need an 11v11, because we haven't had the capacity in the squad to go and play another elite team, because we had to cancel Western Sydney Wanderers because I couldn't go out there and play these. I had 15 players. So we couldn't play them players for 90 minutes in the first pre-season game because you break them down.
Yeah.
Just break them. I don't want that to happen. So the NPL boys have stepped up and we play 11v11, and it's done very well.
I think the flip side of that also, Mark, is you've seen an upturn in the NPL team performance as well. So there's a benefit in both regards. 100%, because they get that motivation with it, and they get that belief in it, and they challenge themselves against the boys who are in the air at the minute as well. So it's that's a real plus from us having a small squad. But that, even if we do have a big squad, we will still, you know, create that pathway for the players to come in.
Do you have players like guys that you mentoring that NPL players in that NPL side? Because they've been in their shoes before.
There'd be friendship groups, wouldn't there? But I've seen a number of the young guys there at Fleet Park on a Sunday.
You know, I think mentoring, can be done in different ways. It's not a case of sitting down with them, because these are good boys themselves. These need mentoring as well. It's what I'm saying about the more senior players in the squad. I'll give you an example today. One player wasn't playing, one goalkeeper wasn't playing, and he pulled one of the centre halves, Michael Paragali, and said, "Michael, can I just have a word with you? I just want to show you this." And that's a sign of what we want. That's mentoring. Probably it's hard for these young players to do it. They might have a casual chat with the younger boys, as they've been there. But as regards to, you probably want your more senior players to be able to do that, because they feel more comfortable with that as well. You know, these boys at the end of the day want to help each other and stuff like that, but they want to focus on their careers as well.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're just in and around it anyway, training with us, being part of our training sessions is progression, because it doesn't happen at every club. It doesn't happen at every club. So
Rob's got one more, maybe one more question, then we really do need to wrap up.
How do you find the accuracy of the passing from player to player? Because I've been watching the stats, and I think we've got smack on. They're very, very accurate.
which our players?
Yep.
This season it's not been too bad. I've not kind of really. We haven't had games to judge the accuracy of passing in pre-season, because we've not played any games.
Well, last year, or no, not last year, the year before.
The year before,
I watched young Faisal pass it directly over to Josh, to Josh Nesbitt, and one of the other players came at him like this, and he kicked it right through his feet, and then Josh went round the outside and got a goal. And I thought, mate, you're spot on.
the best goal we scored last year, the most satisfying goal for me, you might find this weird, it wasn't the grand final. It was a goal we scored to beat Wellington at 1-2-1. It was a diving header by Angel Torres, and that was because that was we trained that move, patient in our build up, patient, and then we had to be penned a term called a soft 10 position.
Yeah,
Where we come out into a soft 10 position, Storm Room won the back, and then the box there. That was, you're talking about a rehearsed play. That was a set play in the game. So that was a real, for me, a real, rewarding goal. What people probably didn't see where that come from. That came from the training ground.
You probably have to also put in the context there that Wellington's sitting very low.
Yeah, so we knew we had to do it. We devised the position called a soft 10 position, not a big 10, not going really out wide, just coming off a little bit. Yeah, you probably watch the goal back again and you'll see it build up. So it was worked, and that was a satisfying goal. But yeah, it's one thing we want, the accuracy of the passing. We want these boys to be better, to take care of the ball. One thing we say all the time, pass detail. All the time, pass detail. Whether it's as simple as passes, pass detail is vital. How hard you put it, where you put it, what foot you put it to, how you keep it on the ground, don't spin the ball, all these little things.
oh, it was wonderful, that game.
It's the 1%.
That's it.
One final point I'd like to ask before we let you go is, how are the injured players travelling in Brad and Trevor? Is there any news on their situation?
Yeah, well, Tappy's been in full training with the team since the start of pre-season, but non-contact. So he's in full training, but we just keep him out of contact in the next, not next week, not the week out, in 2 weeks' time, just over 2 weeks' time, or just 3 weeks, around 3 weeks' time, he can come back into full contact. So
good.
For the last probably 6 and a bit weeks of the second part of pre-season, because I've broken pre-season into 2 parts. The second part of pre-season he'll be looking really good, looking good. And then Trent's tolerating more exercises in the gym. He actually rolled in the office today and saw him get out of his car on the week. Remember the guy at the grand final who was on the wheelie thing?
Yeah.
So he had one of them, and I said to him, what you want that for? He went, oh, I'm just bringing it back to the club. I thought, He does something else. He was just bringing that back into the club. It's like a big kid riding it from the car. But yeah, the
Oh,
trouble.
sorry, got one more from the back of the floor. It really must look.
You just stole the question I was gonna ask, so
Oh.
I'll put another one to Mark and Matt. And Jackie, you may have already alluded to this before with, saying that we'll have a young side, but is there any truth in the rumour that Mark has stepped down as OSC chairman because he's up for a playing contract?
Obviously, I haven't seen me play, but I talk a good game, let me just put it that way.
If you can do a better analysis, it could be. Better analysis.
I think, you know, with Mark, I mean, gents, we're grateful to all of you this evening. So Mark, you've always are so generous with your insights and, you know, your thoughts on the game, and it's a real pleasure always to talk to you. I really look forward to the chats that we've had, and I've enjoyed every single one again tonight. I'd like us, everybody to put their hands together.